Okay, we are in our second 9 weeks, week 4. And today I've got several to go over because we've had so much going on this week, we've not had a chance. So I'm going to do Monday's column and then Tuesday's column and then Wednesday's column. So be sure to have your bell work out on your desk. And as I go over this, check your answers and correct them. All right, so Monday's box, first I'm going to put my name on my paper, kiddos. All right, so the first box just gives me the words that I'm going to use this week. So repeat after me. Inscription. Predictable. Scribble. Reliable. Prescription. Postscript. Divisible. Verdict. Now looking at these 8 words, which of them means a short bit of writing added to the end of a letter? Postscript. Okay. Now we're going to look at the next one where it wants us to label the parts of the speech of the underlined words. Hey, I'm coming with you. Hey is an interjection. With is a preposition. And you is a pronoun. The next box asks me, which of the words is a synonym for the underlined words? Synonym means what?
Opposite.
Synonym?
No, same.
Same. So we're looking for a word that means the same as the underlined word. The popcorn tastes terrible because I added too much salt.
Salty or humble?
Okay, so salty, is that necessarily terrible?
No.
So they are not synonyms. So what is a synonym? A word that would mean the same thing as terrible. Horrible. So horrible is my answer. So the salty would make sense in the sentence to replace. It is not a synonym for the word terrible. Expand the sentence by adding details. I ate food. I'm going to say,
I ate a lot of good southern seafood.
good. Okay?
How does a banana stop cramping?
All right, so the potassium in it actually stops the cramping. So the shoes that I wore yesterday, last night, after I took them off, my toes were cramping and hurting very badly. And so I went and got a banana and ate it, and the potassium in the banana stopped the cramp in my foot.
I thought it was pickle juice.
You can also do pickle juice. So pickle juice and bananas are a good way to stop those. A lot of times, like a Charlie horse, you'll get in the back of that muscle right here in your calf when it feels like the muscle just turns over and it's really painful. If you will eat a banana or drink some pickle juice, it'll keep you from having those cramps.
I prefer banana.
Correct the sentence by adding commas. Are you free for dinner on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday of next week? So I'm going to put one after Monday, one after Tuesday, because the rule is that this is commas in a series. Okay? And then my last box for Monday is just a box for me to look at. Pon and pos means to put or to place. Mit, miss, or mis means to send or to put. And then miss means wrong, incorrect, not, or bad. Okay? So now I'm moving up to Tuesday's column. And when it says for me to use the words that have the root that means right, if you remember back, it was maybe the first week of our second 9 weeks, we were given that the root of right is scrib or script. Okay? Okay? So I'm going to go through the words, and you tell me if they have the root word scrib or script in them. Inscription.
Yes.
Yes. So I'm going to write that. Predictable.
No.
Scribble.
Yes.
Reliable.
No.
Prescription.
Yes.
Postscript.
Yes.
Divisible.
Yes. Yes. No.
Divisible?
Wait, no.
Does it have scrib or script in it?
No. Wait, no.
It does?
No. No.
Does it?
No.
Okay. And verdict.
No.
Alright, so looking at these four words that have the root that means right, that's inscription, scribble, prescription, and postscript. Which of these would best complete the sentence? The blank on the picture frame said family is forever.
Inscription.
Inscription, good. Because an inscription is like a carving into something. Okay. Which word or phrase best completes the sentence? You have afterwards, however, or for example. My brother is always breaking things. Blank yesterday, he ran through the house and knocked over a lamp. For example, that's giving me an example of how he always breaks things. Alright, and then looking at the sentence, Superman's X-ray vision cannot see through lead or lead. So it's going to be pronounced that lead that rhymes with fed. And that is a type of metal,
I thought it can look through anything though.
but not lead. Alright, combine this sentence. Sarah likes black jelly beans. I don't like black jelly beans. I'm going to say Sarah likes black jelly beans. Oh, y'all are so much more advanced than my other ones because they were saying but we know that we can put the word however in there, and that increases our sentence a little bit better. However, I do not. And I don't even have to put that I don't like them because it's just restating it. Correct the sentence by adding commas. We must take our seats, turn in our homework, and put away our books before class starts. We must take our seats, comma, turn in our homework, comma, and put away our books before class starts. Rule? Commas in a series. Okay? Now, looking at the last one, what does the word transmit mean? So I'm looking at the word mit, and over here in this box, mit means to send or to put. So my options are to send across, to walk across, or to throw across. To send across. So do you see how you utilize this box to help you with these questions? Alright, and then the last one we are looking at is Wednesday's column. So it wants us to look back at Monday's box and identify the words that have the root that means speak. And that is going to be D-I-C-T. Okay? So we are going to be looking for the words that have this root word in it. So I'm going to call them out to you and you tell me whether they do or they do not. Inscription.
No.
Predictable.
Yes.
Okay? Scribble.
No.
Reliable.
No.
Prescription.
No.
Postscript.
No.
Divisible.
No.
Verdict.
Yeah.
Verdict does. So looking at the two words, predictable and verdict, which of these means a decision that a jury or judge declares at the end of a trial? It is a verdict. Now, our next box wants us to label the parts of speech of the underlined words. Unfortunately, I can't go to the party because I'm sick. Unfortunately ends in an ly. That's an adverb. To is a preposition. And because is a conjunction. Okay? And then looking at my next one, figurative language. Is this a simile or a metaphor? And what does it mean? My fingers are as cold as ice. First of all, what am I comparing?
Fingers to ice.
Fingers
To ice.
to ice. Do I use like or as? Yes, I use as. Therefore, it is a simile. And what does it mean?
Very cold.
Fingers are very cold. Reduce the sentence. Every single time I order pizza, I always order pizza with pepperoni on it. Guys, watch this. Watch how easy this is.
I order pizza.
I always order pizza with pepperoni on it. So I took out that first part of the sentence every single time I order pizza because I've got a time, always, and I've got what? A pizza. So all I have to do is say I always order pizza with pepperoni on it.
Can't you put it under the bottom sentence and make it into
I always order pizza.
Well, but it wants you to reduce. So that's what it's asking me to do. Reduce means take some of it away. So I took away every single time I order pizza. And I just left, I always order pizza with pepperoni on it.
What about I always order pepperoni?
That would be fine too. I always order pepperoni pizza. But there wouldn't be necessarily reducing, it would be also changing some words around. So that would be change the sentence, reduce and change. And here I'm just reducing because I took out that first part. Alright, now the next box tells me to correct this sentence by adding commas. I use my computer to play games, research topics, and create reports. So I'm going to put a comma after games and after topics because that is commas in a series. Which is just a fancy way of saying that it lists stuff. And then which word completes the sentence? Dismiss, misplace, or deposit. Eric is going to the bank to blank his paycheck. Deposit. Because POS means to put or to place. And so he's going to the bank to put his money in there. Okay? Alright, so now we're going to turn to the back and we're going to look at our first poem that we've come across this year. So this is going to look different than our fiction and it's going to look different than our informational. Because, first of all, it's set up differently. Okay? Our fiction and informational is set up in paragraphs that are created by sentences. This right here looks like a paragraph, but it's not. Okay? So we're going to talk about the parts of a poem. So the first thing I'm going to do up here is I'm going to write that it is a poem. Okay? Now, one thing you need to know about poems is that they have lines and stanzas. So we don't say sentences and paragraphs, we say lines and stanzas. So now coming down here, this group right here, before this open area, that is called a stanza. So that is stanza 1. This is stanza 2. And this is stanza 3. Now, within each stanza, you have lines. This is a line. This is a line. This is a line. This is a line. So these are called what? Lines. How many lines are in stanza 1? 4. Alright, so let's look at stanza 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. So far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in stanza 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4 in stanza 2. Let's look at stanza 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So how many lines total do we have?
12.
Alright, so we have 12 lines and 3 stanzas. Alright? That's not apostrophe. Alright, so here's what I want to explain to you. Poetry is very difficult. Okay? It takes a very deep thinker. And I'm going to be honest with you, every poem that I have laid my eyes on, I have not understood every single poem. There are poems that I still look at and I'm like, I don't really understand what they are wanting me to learn, what the theme is, okay? But the most important thing that when you look at poetry, the most important thing that they're going to assess you on are two things. The theme, and that's what is the lesson that you learn from this poem. What is the lesson that you can take away? Okay? The other thing is going to be figurative language, usually, is where they're going to test it. So, we're going to talk about this and figure out what is the figurative language that they're using, what is each thing. So, we can't do the Fab Five. We can't do the main idea, because it wouldn't make sense to do that in the poem. We are looking at what does this stanza say to me? And from this stanza to this stanza, what changes? And then from this stanza to this stanza, what changes? And then what is the overall effect that it has on me? Okay? So I'm going to guide you through this. And we're going to do several poems. Not today, obviously. We're going to do one poem today. But we're going to do several poems going forward for the rest of the 9 weeks. And it's going to be us practicing looking at these different things in a poem. Okay? Don't get frustrated if you don't understand it. Okay? First period, second period, they didn't grasp it at first. We had to really get into it and explain it and understand it. Okay? So, Shel Silverstein lived from 1930 to 1999, and he was an American poet, cartoonist, screenwriter, and author of children's books. In the following poem, a child has a conversation with the clock man, and as you read, take notes on how the person in the poem reacts to and feels about time. Okay? So we essentially are going to have 2 characters in this poem. Okay? So I'm going to read it and you tell me at the end, who are my 2 characters? So we're looking for the 2 characters. Okay? The title of the poem is The Clock Man. How much will you pay for an extra day? The clock man asked the child. Not 1 penny, the answer came, for my days are as many as smiles. How much will you pay for an extra day? He asked when the child was grown. Maybe $1 or maybe less, for I've plenty of days of my own. How much will you pay for an extra day? He asked when the time came to die. All of the pearls in all of the seas, and all of the stars in the sky. Okay? Yes. All right. So let's talk about my characters. Who are my characters in this poem?
Old man, clock man, and the child.
All right, the child
And the clock man.
and the clock man.
And then there was whenever he got older and stuff.
Okay? But he is still the same person. So let's talk about stanza 1. Alright, so what is being offered?
Another day.
An extra day. An extra day added on to the child's life. Okay? So let's just say that the child is 8, 10. Let's say the child's your age. Okay? And looking forward, let's just say, wishful thinking, that we all live to be 100 years old. Okay? So right now, if I asked you to give me $20,000 and I will add an extra day onto your life, you don't care. It's not worth $20,000 to you right now, is it? You're not going to pay anything for an extra day added onto your life because to you, at 10 years old, you have many, 90 times 365. Okay? Plus add some leap years in there. So you've got plenty of time. So time's not important to you right now, right? It's not worth you spending anything on because it's not that important to you. Now fast forward to my age, and I'm almost to the peak of that mountain. Okay?
You're 40?
I'm close. So let's say that I was offered the same thing as you. I'm going to give you an extra day added on to your life for 50 grand. Well, right now 50 grand is an important amount of money to me. And right now my time is important. But it's not that important because I still look at my time and have so much of it left. If I live to be 100, then that means I still have like 62 years left. So it's not important for me. One day is not going to make a difference, right? I'm not going to pay any money for one extra day added to my life. So, now, let's say the same thing is posed to someone who knows they're 100 years old and today is the last day of their life. Okay? If I said, give me all of your riches, everything you possess, and I will give you one more day of life,
I'd say yes.
you would say yes. Because you may have all the resources in the world, but you don't have the time to use them or spend that. And so at that time, you can see that the older you get, the less time you have, and the less time you have, the more valuable that time becomes. Okay? So, looking at this in stanza 1. Stanza 1, the boy hello. Block? I don't have. Sorry. Alright, stanza 1. The boy doesn't think that extra time matters. Stanza 2, the young adult thinks that time matters some. Not very important, not very valuable. Now we're going to look at stanza 3. The person about to die thinks time is worth everything. So the theme that we take away from this is the older you get, the more time, the more valuable your time is. It's a good little thing, isn't it? Good little story, or a good little poem. All right? So this is how we're dissecting that. We've got our characters, we've got our stanzas, we've got our theme. We talked about in stanza how the character was initially, how the character changed from stanza 1 to stanza 2, how the character changed from stanza 2 to stanza 3, and taking how they changed and picking that from what did we learn, what was the lesson that we learned from that, and that became our theme. Okay? So lesson learned is our what?
Theme.
Lesson learned. Theme is lesson learned. What do you take away from this poem? Okay? Alright. So, now we're going to flip over and look at our questions. Okay. So question number 1 is a part A, part B. Part A. Which of the following best describes the theme of this poem? So we went through the theme and we said the older you get, the more valuable your time is. So we're looking for a statement that is similar to this. It kind of means the same thing. Is it going to necessarily be word for word? Not necessarily. But we're looking for something that has the words that are very similar, worded very similar to that. All right? So A, people care about time more as they get older. Would that be the same as the older you get, the more valuable your time is? Maybe. I like that. Maybe. B, children often feel like they will never get old. Okay, I don't feel like that's our theme either. C, there's nothing more important to people than staying young. Does it say anything about staying young? No. They don't want to stay young. What are they trying to buy?
Extra life.
One more day. So it's not saying, take me back to when I was 14. It's saying, give me one more day at age 100. D, people are afraid of death their entire lives. All right? So my answer is A. It doesn't matter if that's how you feel. Is that the lesson learned from the poem? No. So you have to take your personal feelings out of that equation and say, I mean, it would be easy to say, well, what was the lesson I learned? Well, I'm afraid to die. Well, no, that's not the lesson the poem was trying to teach you. Yes, you may be afraid of that your entire life, but that's not the lesson that the poem was trying to teach you. It wasn't trying to teach you to spend every day afraid that you're going to die. Okay? So now, on part B, it says, which detail from the text best supports the answer to part A? So on this, we are looking for a statement that tells us that people care about time more as they get older. For my days are as many as smiles. No, that's talking about the kid. How much will you pay for an extra day? Does that tell me that people care about time more as they get older? No. He asked when the time came to die. Maybe. All of the pearls in all of the seas. Does that tell me that people care about time more as they get older? because
I don't know the year though.
he was paying for that extra time. How much would he pay for it? All of the pearls and all of the seeds. Okay? So the answer is D. How do we know that people care about time more as they get older? Because
Give up all the
he would have given up all the pearls and all of the C's just to have one extra day. So the answer is D. Alright, and then now we get into the representation, that figurative speech, figurative language. What does the clock man represent? Does he represent death?
No.
Living forever? Time?
Maybe.
Maybe. Money?
Maybe.
Money?
He's
No.
wanting money.
He wants money, but what is he giving? He's representing time. Alright? And so tomorrow we will look at a person's feelings about time and how they change through the poem. Okay?